Hello and welcome to episode 254 of the Paint All the Minis podcast. We put the show together so you can have something to listen to whilst you are sitting at your paint desk and painting miniatures of any scale, genre or game. Our aim is to have a relaxed and genuine conversation with people who are as involved in the hobby as you from any level, top to bottom, because we've all got our own unique and individual stories. Sit at your hobby desk, paint your models, listen to the chat. We really do hope that you enjoy the content. This week I talk to Ed about why he loves the tabletop skirmish game Space Weirdos. I love these shows. The why I love shows are the purest form of our podcast, in my opinion. Not the detriment of others. I just think these stand a few millimeters above all the other amazing episodes because he just loves it. He loves Space Weirdos and he wants to share that with us, and that is truly amazing. Thanks to Ed for coming onto the show, for taking the time out of his busy schedule. It was a pleasure to meet him and to speak to him, and it was also a pleasure to hear about why he's so much of a space weirdo. And if you are a space weirdo, then I hope that you feel happy that your common love is getting some worldwide attention, a little bit like Patrick Swazye in Dirty Dancing saying no one puts space weirdos in the corner. I really do hope that you enjoy the episode, whether you are a space weirdo or not, and yeah, it's always good to listen to different people talk about different things, and we start our talk talking about Southern Softies, and we kind of go from there. But I'm recording the episode. I'm not sure if you can hear the difference, but a lot of you guys listen to the show not at your painting desk. I get a lot of messages from different people saying that actually I don't listen to it when I'm at my hobby desk painting miniatures of any scale, genre or game. Actually, I do it when I'm mowing the lawn, or when I'm commuting, or when I'm climbing a tree, or whatever. So I've decided over the next few weeks to record the intro in various different places. And I'm in a storeroom. So I'm in a little teeny tiny storeroom, and as I look around, I got some basketballs right in front of me. I've got a mannequin next to me as well, like a sport mannequin that kind of gets in the way of balls. What else we got around here? Got some giant plastic buckets here. I got a scoreboard, got some stinky old shoes, badminton nets. So I've got a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm gonna kind of I guess maybe when you've been in a romantic relationship for a long time and you're looking to keep the spice. So I'll try and keep the spice in the intros by recording the intro in various different places that occur to me. So I'm in a little stinky storeroom today. Well, who knows where I'll be next week. Anyway, if you want to come and swing by the Paint All the Minis Discord so you can hang out with us and show us what you're up to, feel free to do so. There is a link in the description of the podcast. If you need to email me, if you've got some ideas about where I can record the intro, you can email paintalltheminis@gmail.com. You can come and check out the Facebook group. You can go and check us out on Blue Sky, and share the show. If you've got a friend who likes Space Weirdos, if you like Space Weirdos and you've been haranguing your mate, you've been moidering your mate, pestering your mate for ages trying to get involved in Space Weirdos, this might be the final straw that breaks that camel's back and gets them involved in Space Weirdos. So please share the show. It's great just to know that other people are listening, other people are liking it. I don't know how many other Paint All the Mini users there are around, but I'm sure there are more in the world. But anyway, that's enough of the P-Run Bramble. Let's go.
Paint all the minis. Paint all the minis that you can. And when you paint your minis, listen to that podcast with Dan Adams, that is.
I know what you're thinking. Did he paint 6 armies or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But being that this is Paint All the Minis, the best place for painting and hobby on the internet, and people aren't going to bite your head clean off for posting, you got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
So, hey, I am here with Ed. How's it going, Ed?
It's going very well. How's it going with yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Whereabouts are you from? You're a Southern Softie, right? You sound like a Southern Softie.
I am indeed from the south of England, born and bred in Buckinghamshire. I now live in Sussex, sort of between London and Brighton, down by the south coast. Don't have any of that strong northern sinew you guys are born with. sadly.
You're the brains. I always think that the South is the brain and the North is the brawn. What do you think about that?
I think that's a very dangerous way to think about things. And you guys can be better than that. You can be more than that. You know, you're northern nous, isn't it? I thought you guys had a bit of nous up there.
Street savvy. Yeah, I'm not. I don't think I've ever talked about this in the show too much, but I get really embarrassed about how people from the north of England are portrayed on TV and in movies and things like that, and it makes me quite embarrassed, to be honest. So the stereotype is that people from the north of England are a bit dull, a bit dim, and we call them bungalows. A bungalow, so there's nothing upstairs, which it makes me embarrassed. And so the kind of the kind of Southern English accent is considered to be quite intelligent, quite articulate, and North England accent is considered to be quite dim and quite dull. A good example of that is probably dwarves. So in movies and things like that, dwarves quite often portrayed with an English, Northern English accent or a Scottish accent. And it kind of plays into that stereotype. Do you think that stereotype still exists, or do you think it's dead?
I would say within the UK, yeah, it probably does exist to an extent. You should never judge things on appearances. And one dwarf, I think, which does buck the trend. I'm a big Terry Pratchett fan. And Cherry, who is one of the characters in The Watch, for those of you who don't know the Discworld novels, is an extremely intelligent and inquisitive character who often comes up with innovative solutions. So there are people bucking the trend in the world of fiction. We probably need some more. To be honest with you.
What do you like about where you
live? So Horsham, which is the town that I live in, is just big enough that you've got pretty much everything that you need. We've got a lovely little Turkish restaurant. We've got a good little Portuguese cafe, nice Italian restaurant, all of that sort of thing. But not so big that... I'm a country boy, really. So not only am I a southern pansy, I'm a country bumpkin too, mate. So it's just big enough that there's stuff here, but not too big that I feel like I'm stuck in the city,
Nice.
The other thing which is great, which we briefly touched on, and as work in wine, that's pretty awesome as well.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that a little bit. So a lot of people talk about how important wine is culturally about the development of society and things like that. What do you think? Well, the history of wine, do you think it's an interesting area to discuss and chat about? Do you think wine's been important for us as human beings?
Yeah, it's fascinating. So if we look at the history of wine goes back 8,000 years. That we have historical evidence. That the earliest evidence of winemaking we have is in Georgia, where they have a very ancient culture of winemaking. They still have a culture there of making wine in amphora, buried in the ground. They call them qvevri. And so there's still kind of drops of the ancient winemaking culture that existed previously. We can see that still with echoes today, which I find fascinating in terms of how it impacts us culturally. On the continent, there's a very strong tradition of wine with food. I think there is more of a tradition of that over here to a degree than there was at times, but I mean, we do have a bit more of a beer culture. We're a Northern European country, so our wine culture is very young here, despite the fact that Romans grew grapes here and made wine here. But relatively young in comparison when we look at how wine culture is today. But yeah, I think it's very interesting.
Anything that brings people together and enables people to have a conversation about that thing, or equally just have conversations about other things, is really important. And, here in Italy right now, people are very passionate about wine, and they talk to us quite a lot about what wine you should drink with certain meals and certain things. And there's a big etiquette around it. It's really cool. It's just really interesting seeing and hearing people talk about different things. And I guess it kind of happens with beer a little bit. And I just wish more people would make their own, make their own wine, or maybe the wine from their own areas and different things and stuff like that. So that's cool. Is it hard sometimes to continue to enjoy something when it's your work? Does it get a little bit tiring sometimes? Being so connected to wine.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. When a hobby becomes a career, there definitely become moments where you feel like you need to step away from it, because it can become pretty all-consuming. And there are definitely people within the trade who all they think and do is wine. And that's great. I'm pleased for them. I can't be that person. It burns me out. I need something else to walk away and enjoy. Part of that is what we're here to chat about, hobby, tabletop wargaming. Part of that's cooking. I enjoy a good walk as well. So, there are definitely ways to break away from a passion becoming too overwhelming as a career. But yeah, there is a danger of that.
I think it's really important to understand that you've got to have multiple things, and if those things can be different too. So let's get on to the hobby thing now. So you mentioned that the hobby, miniatures, painting, whatever it was, is something that you do. So when did you first start getting involved in this hobby, and how did it first rear its head?
So originally, I was in the hobby as a kid. So I guess I would have been about 9, give or take 6 months or so. And my cousin, who is about 3 years older than me, was into the hobby. He played, or would have been probably Rogue Trader at the time. How much he actually played, I'm not entirely sure. I mostly just saw his models. I know he always enjoyed the hobby side more than the gaming side. And then, I saw games being played by other people at school. My parents brought me the Battle Masters set when I would have been about 9. So that was really my entrance game. So yeah, but I mean, even before that, I did Airfix models and stuff. So nice. Yeah, from there through to about the age of 15, I was very deeply into it. I still get sort of family joke about, how I just sit and stare at models and look and be like, they're so pretty. Moving them around and making up worlds in my head. But, then the inevitable, and so many people I'm sure have said it before me, you get distracted by other things. Other friends had moved away from the hobby. And so, there didn't seem like an outlet for it. And there were other distractions around, which there were outlets for. So just
before we move on, you mentioned that Battle Masters was kind of like your main big entry. So between that age of like 9 to kind of 15, what games were you playing? What were you doing? And how into the gaming and also the painting were you?
So I played a reasonable amount of second edition 40k, whether that was played correct or not. We had Space Hulk, which I played a lot of. I loved Space Hulk.
It's good.
There will be people who will be very upset to hear me say second edition is the one that I really enjoy. I understand that the first edition and third editions have their fans are probably seen as the slightly superior games, and that's great, but second edition is what I played as a kid. That's what gives me the nostalgia kick. Blood Bowl was another one we played a lot of, and actually is a game I'm just getting back into. And Necromunda was probably the last game I really played. Again, it was a game that I could either persuade my brother to join in on, or I could play solo and just develop a couple of different gangs as we went. I was probably slightly more on the playing than the hobbying side at the time, although I did find some terribly made scenery when I found all my old stuff, and I did have a a reasonable amount of my models painted, certainly the ones that I wanted to play with more often than not, and I tried to do conversions. So I did do hobby stuff. I just, as a kid, wasn't that good at it, and now as an adult, and with the likes of social media and YouTube and so on, I'm able to find out how to do things I wasn't sure about how to do before. So
it's a really good point you make there. It's like it seems to be a lot more accessible now in terms of the tools that we can buy, the paints that we have, and also the tutorials that exist, right? It seems to be like back in those days you're kind of on your own a lot more, and it was a little bit more difficult to get good at stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you think back in the day, I lived when I first got into the hobby, the nearest GW store or hobby store as such was about a 40-minute drive over in Oxford. There was one eventually that opened in Milton Keynes, which was a bit closer to me. That was about a 20-minute drive. Yeah. So even just going and asking a fellow hobbyist, how do you do this? Wasn't really an option. So yeah, I think definitely now, like the technology of the paints and the brushes and all of that has come on so far, and the wealth of experience that you can harvest from YouTube and social media as a whole is incredible. And the community, like being on Discord groups, just going, right, oh, I don't know how to do this, I'm just going to shout out in a one of the communities, how do I go about this? And someone will come back and they'll give you pointers and give you, if at the very least, suggestions of where else you can go to find that information. Which is really helpful.
There's still something about that, you mentioned the DW store being like 40 minutes away. There's still something about that I really like. I guess it's the idea of it being like a pilgrimage or a rite of passage or something that stands alone as like a kind of, you can't go very often, so that when you do go, it means something. And don't get me wrong, it's really good to have internet shopping and, have stuff delivered to your door, but there's just something about going to a store that's a trek, or like, that kind of thing. I don't know. I like going to a store, and I like it to be difficult to go to a store because I really like it. It's like, I really need to plan it in. I'll make a whole day of it. I don't want to buy anything other than at this store. So I'm going to spend a long time thinking and umming and ahhing and thinking about what I want to get and all that kind of stuff. And then when I'm going home, I'm holding it and I'm looking at it on the bus on the way home. I don't know, something about that I really like, and I hope that stays intact.
Yeah, there's a very tangible element to that. I don't know that I quite share that, but in that space anyway. But certainly, I was listening to your conversation with Mark on the podcast. Yeah, and he was talking about the big games, and I go along to some of the big games, and that element of the excitement of everything, of all the build up, the anticipation. We only meet 2 or 3 times a year. But knowing that, my friends are going to be there and we're all going to make something cool, and then we're going to tell a story together, and it's going to take like all day, but that whole day I'll get back from it, like God knows what time, and I'll just be completely drained, but so happy because all this stuff has happened and all the anticipation, everything. So yeah, I totally get that kind of, making hobby moments special and building them up and having them be kind of that special thing you hold on to, and enjoy in that moment. I think there's definite value to that.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And so just skipping to modern day, how did you first get back into the hobby, and what was it that drew your attention to it? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I back in 2019, I spent about a year or 2 looking at role-playing games and wanting to play a role-playing game, but not having anyone to play with, or not having anyone to run a game for me, let's say. And it got to a point where I was like, well, maybe I should run it. And a friend of mine gave me a book. He gave me a Mouse Guard role-playing game, which if anyone's looking for a first role-playing game, don't choose that one. It is not a good choice. It's a fun game, but it's very, very noodly. Anyway, so I was like, right, okay, well, I'll watch some YouTube videos, because you can learn how to do these things online, and I'll figure out how to be a GM, and I'll invite some friends over and we'll start playing a game. So I did that, and I got back into tabletop gaming as a whole through role-playing games. And I did that. I was running games every week, sometimes more than once a week, through COVID. Whilst also working, because I was working for a wine merchant and delivering wine and stuff like that. So yeah, it was very full on. I did it for a couple of years and then pretty much burnt myself out. And I was on one of the online merchants. It wasn't War Game Vault, but it's their role-playing game side of it. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head now. But yeah, so I was on that, having a little look at what games were there. So I was interested in doing things. I just, needed a break from it. And I came across a little zine called Space Weirdos. So, what's this? So I had a little look, and it was a miniatures skirmish game, and it was $5. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. It's not very much. I'll just give it a buy. Looked at a review of it as well on the old YouTubes. There is a guy there who Uncle Atom. I can't think what his channel is called now. It still just comes up automatically on my phone these days. But he does a video series every now and then called Why I Like It, and he'd done a video about why he liked Space Weirdos. I thought, okay, that sounds interesting. It's $5. I'll buy into it. I've got a bunch of models back at my parents' house. I can just pick up a handful of them and give it a go and see if I want to do this thing. And I gave it a go against a friend. We had a really good time. And so I went and picked up more models from my parents' house. And I bought myself a paint set. And I started painting. I was like, oh, actually, this is really therapeutic. And it was one of those things where I'd had some health issues and was trying to get over those, along with some mental health issues that came along with that, managing pain. And I found that sitting and painting models was super therapeutic. It really helped my headspace, helped me distract from the pain that I was experiencing at the time. And from there, it just kind of grew. Nice. So that would have happened about 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Yeah.
So that's cool. So before we jump into Space Weirdos, let's kind of just like prod around what you just talked about there about how hobbying and painting and that kind of thing kind of helps you out. Why do you think it does help us out? Because I'm the same. It gets me into flow state. The whole world contracts to the size of my desk. I'm not thinking about deadlines or work or mistakes that I've made at work or in life. I find it very helpful too. So why do you think it helped you specifically, and why do you think it helps us specifically?
Well, for a start, it provides a useful distraction. So you're taking your brain away from whatever it is that you were worrying about, or whatever it is that was prodding in on it. And it takes you to another world, essentially, the world of the mini that you're painting. And you get to think and express yourself on a model. And then once you've painted it, you've got it, and you can, as 12-year-old Ed would have done, pick it up and stare at it and go, oh, it looks so good, or I'm really pleased with that, or oh, I need to work on that bit a little bit more. I need to if I just change that bit. So it gives you an altered space in your brain, but it also gives you that lovely little endorphin release of you've made something, you've created something. So it's really, having both that creative outlet, but also that useful distraction. I think it's probably that combination for me, which I find really helpful.
Yeah. I really like it because I love listening to music, and there's, I find that a lot of people, myself included, passively listen to music where there's some music on and we know that the music is on, but we're not really too engaged with it. We can hum along as we cook or in the shower or whatever. What I found is that when I listen to music, especially live albums, I'm actively listening to that music. So I'm painting, and I'm painting some boots, or I'm painting some bass, or whatever it is. But I'm actually actively listening to the music. And I found, especially with live albums, is I wouldn't say I'm imagining myself there, but I'm really genuinely immersed. And anything that stops me thinking about what time it might be, or what I need to do later on, or an appointment that I've got during the week, kind of anything that stops me thinking about like the future or the past is amazing. I'm just living in that moment. I was just tickling the little plastic guy with my paintbrush, and I'm just actively engaged and immersed in some music. It's pretty amazing, you know, like that kind of, it's not a trance state, but it's definitely getting there, right? You know, kind of all these other things have just stopped mattering, or you start even thinking about those things. I'm just literally thinking about the thing in front. It's pretty special. I'm not sure if there's too many different instances where that sort of stuff occurs. You know, I had it with watching football games in the past, like live football games. You know, so I go to the stadium, and like when I'm watching the game, nothing else matters apart from what's occurring and what's unfolding during that. But I'm not sure if there's too many. Fishing, I got a friend who fishes, and he's the same thing. He kind of talks about that trance-like state where he puts his rod out, and all he's doing is sitting on the side, and he's just watching his line, he's watching his float, and that kind of thing. But it's pretty special, those moments, I think.
It's kind of a meditative state.
Yeah.
I as someone who has done a bit of fishing in the past, definitely recognise that. And yeah, I can see how you would 100% get into that state with painting minis as well. I've definitely kind of felt, you know, that feeling of everything's just flowing. There's no concerns. I'm just in that space doing the thing. I think it's very grounding.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that when I was getting mental health support, which anyone who is unsure if you need it, you might need it, and reach out and get it because it is 100% worth it. That whole idea of grounding yourself, putting yourself into the moment and feeling where you are and what is in front of you is really, really powerful. And yeah, I definitely feel that kind of mini painting can be very grounding. It forces you to be in the present. You can't think about what you're going to, you'll have thought about how you want the model to be in the end. And you'll have thought about the processes that you want to go to, but you're doing that before you pick up the paintbrush, generally. You'll have done some thinking about how you're going to get that end effect. So once you're in that moment, you can't think about the next step. You have to think about the step that you're in. Otherwise, you're going to make the mistake, and then you're going to have to restart again. So it really does force you to really just focus on the technique and the moment and the model that you're on at any one time. Because if you're outside of that, then you're not going to be able to paint the model the way that you want to. So I think it's naturally a very grounding activity.
That's awesome, man. It's super cool. But anyway, we're here to talk mostly about Space Weirdos. So you've already introduced it. Yeah. You mentioned that you found it online. You mentioned that it's very cheap to pick up. It's mini agnostic game. So give us the synopsis. Give us the general overview about what it is, and then we'll dig into some specific details.
Yeah, for sure. So my sales pitch for Space Weirdos, if you like, it is a mini agnostic skirmish game. You play it from anywhere between 4 to a dozen models for a really big game. But most of the time you're playing with 4 to 6 models each. It has like a dice shifting mechanic. So all of your stats are, for example, 2d6 or 2d8 or 2d10. And you stat out your models with their defense, their melee, their shooting, and their wisdom, their sort of intelligence. And from the stats you give them, depending on the situation, you can shift your dice up or down. So if things are going against you, you might have a shift down on your dice when you make your roll. If things are going your way, you might have a shift up. So you can make things more or less likely to happen. It's very cinematic in its gameplay. You have these under attack and under fire charts, which if you do take a hit for some reason, you roll on these and you can have a reaction which goes from firing back at your opponent, to diving for cover, to being knocked down, to being outright taken off the board. So it facilitates this very cinematic style of gameplay where I can shoot at you, you can then shoot back at me and force me to dive for cover, for example. And then it's one of these things where it's simple enough to learn and to teach other people that I could teach someone in about 10 to 15 minutes how to play the game. And then we can play a game. I might leave out a couple of things. So I might leave out command points because that adds an extra level of complexity. But, you know, that's easy enough to add in the second game. And by the second game, you will understand the game completely and will be playing. But it's got just enough levels of complexity that it's always interesting to go back to. It's one of these easy to learn, hard to master style games. I think there's a lot. There was a lot there when I first picked it up. That I was like, I can really get my teeth into it very quickly and easily. It's low barrier to entry. But then, you know, in the 3 years since I first picked it up, I just keep finding things that engage me with it. And keep having games where I go, yeah, that was much fun. Like the story came out of that was brilliant.
Nice. That's really cool. So just before we go any further, call out the author and then also talk to us about the lore. Like, who are Space Weirdos and what are they doing and why are they potentially getting to gripes?
So the author is Casey Garsky. It's produced by Garsky Games. And you literally go onto Wargame Vault, pay $5, download the game, print it out at home, and you're good to go. In terms of the lore and setting, it doesn't have lore and setting. It is literally just, these are a set of mechanics. It's 16 pages long of A5 pages, so it's very small. But it means you can put them onto whatever setting you want. So if you want to play Star Wars, you can use this to play Star Wars. If you want to play Necromunda, or what I like to refer to as Weirdo Munda, you can play that and use that lore. If you want to play Flash Gordon, hey, knock yourself out. It's all here. It's so easy to stick on to any setting that you already enjoy. Or if you want to make up your own setting, hey, you can do that. I mean, this is a game that facilitates the hobby in so many different ways. From creating your own lore to building, you know, your war bands to creating fun scenery to interact with. It's fantastic for that.
Nice. That's cool. It's cool to have that space. It's great to have that ability to be able to do things. And I guess this is where different settings can collide too. So if I've got some Star Wars models and you've got some different ones, some Necromunda ones, those things can coexist too. That's awesome. And you mentioned about statting out. So how does that work in terms of force creation? You mentioned that it's quite small model count. Obviously, I would think is a certain limit to about how good your models can be, and there's certain maybe points or monetary values that you must build towards. Is that correct?
No, you're absolutely spot on there. So you have points restrictions. So the standard game would either be 75 points or 125 points. I played it at 50-point teams. It works fine. I've played it at 150. I know guys who played it at 250. So in terms of the game level, you can play at a bunch of different sizes. But 75 to 125 is the typical. Normally, you will have one model, often your leader, but it doesn't have to be, which will be statted up to 25 points. And the rest of your models should be under 20 or 20 or under. So you tend to have one slightly stronger unit and then a bunch of units which are, you know, sort of a bit weaker. But you're often, that restriction, as with so many things, when you put blank spaces or restrictions, they open up areas of creativity. So you might have, let's say, an orc warband. And your orc leader is the big, strong, tough guy who can do lots of stuff. So he's your up to 25 points guy. And then you've got a couple of lads who you've given one a big shooter and one a big chopper, and you stack them up to be, 15 to 20 points each. And then you've got a couple of little Gretchen guys who you're like, right, well, these guys are just going to be 10 points each. They're going to be worth very, very little, but I'm going to sacrifice them anyway, so it doesn't matter. And so, you can create really fun, balanced forces. You can also, make some very broken things, but that's not really what this game's about. This game's about taking models you love, giving them a framework to play in, and telling stories with them. That's what the game is about. The conversation comes up on the Discord every now and then. And yes, it's fun to find synergies and find things that work, but it's not a competitive play game. If you want to play competitive stuff, go find something else, because this is not your game.
Have you got any particular favorite characters that you've created, or a particular favorite band that you've created?
Oh, 100%. So I have a couple that are probably spring to mind quickest. Number one, I played a Weirdo Munda campaign with some friends. So in the kind of Necromunda style setting, or like a Hive style setting. And I had built an evil space dwarf force. And the mascot of the evil space dwarf was this little goat, which came with the models that I'd bought from Old School Miniatures, wonderful miniature company. And this little goat ended up, I gave him a higher movement speed than the other models, because they were all slow, because that's what you do. They're space dwarfs, so they're going to be only one stick worth of movement. Probably worth pointing out that movement's all measured in sticks. So, between 1 and 3 sticks. So most of my guys had 1 stick of movement. The goat had 2 or 3 sticks. And so he was able to dash out and got into a fight with my friend's Ogrin. And he ended up beating the Ogrin down. He headbutted him in the ankles, knocked him onto the floor, and then headbutted him in the head until he broke this guy's skull. We were playing a campaign, so we'd come up with some rules to enable upgrades, and I managed to roll an upgrade for him, which ended up being a magical spell. So I gave him teleport. So I then used that little goat, the smallest model on the board, to stalk his Ogrin every game afterwards. And every game afterwards, he took his Ogrin down as soon as possible. I don't think my friend Alex has ever quite forgiven me for it, but it was very funny at the time. So that was
took
particularly memorable. Yeah, and he's just the GOAT, because he is the greatest of all time. He is also a GOAT, so he is just the GOAT. I have a Beastman as well, who I have a lot of love for. So I was playing a game where I had 2 friends who were playing against me as a games master, and they were both trying to clear out a demonic enclave in these ruins. And they did a really good job. They cleared out loads of stuff, but there was one particular policeman who took no end of fire and just kept standing, to the point where one of my friends, he ran his Imperial Guardsman up to the Beastman. He's like, I want to pull the pin on a grenade and stuff it down his throat. I'm like, you are going to kill yourself. He's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's going to be great. It's going to be that cinematic moment. I'm like, yes, I love it. So he did that. The Beastman survived. His Imperial Guardsman died. So it ended up with being like the Beastman swallowed the grenade, burped explosion back in the Imperial Guardsman's face, and he's ever since been known as little Wee Billy. And whenever Wee Billy hits the board, beware, because he will do damage. I don't know what it is about certain models. I don't know if you've ever found this. Certain models attract good die rolls, and certain models attract bad die rolls. I find it with certain opponents as well. Like certain opponents I know I will roll well against, and there are other opponents that I know I'm going to roll badly against, and it's just the way it is. It's so weird. But yeah, it is, those are probably the 2 models that out of space, through playing Space Weirdos, I've got some really fun kind of stories out of.
The unique and special experiences, right? and that's what it's all about. Like, it's a shared experience with some friends, and it's not knowing before it begins. Does that kind of make sense? It's like I did it recently when I was painting some minis, and someone was talking to me about different units, and I just finished off a unit. He's like, "Oh, you've put so much effort into those guys, but they're not very good." And I was like, well, one, it doesn't really matter, but also I don't really want to know the stats of anything before I paint them. So it's like I just want to paint it and have some fun, and the future is unwritten. Everyone's got the same chance before it begins, and then it's like just seeing how it goes through, man. It's pretty cool. Those unique and special experiences and shared experiences, because you have a chuckle. You're probably going to have a pint at some point, or have a cup of coffee at some point, and you'll kind of reminisce, and you'll be like, remember that guy? So like the friend that's got the ogrin that you mentioned, like he'll always remember that, and you'll always have that shared experience, and you'll always have a little chuckle about it. But yeah, it's strange how that all works. It kind of makes you think about there is some sort of hidden system in the background that makes these things happen, because it happens quite a lot. And is it complete chance? Is it determinism? I don't know, but regardless, it's pretty funny. And if it's happening to you, you've got to laugh about it, which is, I guess, is what separates like competitive players from kind of narrative players. Is you've got to laugh, and you've got to find it funny, and you've got to roll with it, because if you're not willing to be flexible and just accept that stuff, you're gonna have a bad time, right?
Well, it's the whole, if you can't take it, don't give it. That whole like give and take, that's part of life. So sometimes the dice are going to go with you. You're going to do amazing things. You're going to be stood at that table going, look at this is awesome, I've just made the ultimate save. And there'll be other times where you go, I cannot believe what the dice are doing to me today. Oh my word, every time I need to roll low, I roll high. Every time I need to roll high, I roll low. What is going on? How are the gods of fate, like, what have I done to upset them? So cool, yeah.
Awesome. So that's cool. So we've got the idea of that it's make your own adventure in terms of the setting. It's you've got certain frames in regards to kind of building a force, but you've got complete freedom to choose the minis that you want to. What about turn structure then? So if we were playing through any one given turn, what would that turn look like? What's the structure of that turn, and how are we interacting with each other?
So it's an alternating activation system. So I do a mini, you do a mini, and we go backwards and forwards until all the minis are activated. So it's very simple in that sense. It becomes a little more complicated when you start having 3, 4, 5, 6 player games, which is totally doable. I ran a 6-player game for a bunch of guys from the Bedroom Battlefields at Bring Out Your Lead last year. So there are 6 players. No one had played it before. We got everything set up, everyone playing and having a great time. Completed a game inside of 3.5 hours, which people had to concentrate a little bit, but it was still a lot of fun and banter still at the table. Typically, it's a 4 to 5 turn game. So when you get to the end of turn 4, you generally roll a dice, and you see if you go on to a 5th turn. So you don't know if you're going to finish the game at the end of turn 4 or the end of turn 5. So, being on an objective or having the most models at the end of turn 4 doesn't mean you're going to win, because you could still have some come back at you, but you kind of need to be a little bit in that position, because there's still a chance that that the game will end. So it's that, do I commit now or do I wait, or how do I balance things? What do I hold in reserve to swing in and provide additional support once my opponent started doing things back to me if we go to turn 5? So it's a really interesting game in that it does give you a lot of tactical challenges at the table. I mentioned command points. So command points allow you to do things like shoot on Overwatch or dodge out of the way of an opponent's shot. You can't dodge Overwatch. You can't counter a command point with a command point. But you can shift your dice mechanics up or down with it. You can make an extra piece of movement with it. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can do, but you only have 2 or 3 of those maybe only one if you've lost your leader. And that then, one of the things you're trying to do is you're trying to use the right command point at the right time.
Yeah.
So it's, again, gives you an interesting tactical decision. Wait until, make sure you've got a command point so that when your opponent's got the really powerful unit, maybe it's the sniper or the missile launcher or the flamethrower, that's only going to be a fire once per turn. Some guns can fire multiple turns, some times per turn, some only once. Are you waiting for that moment to dodge out of the way and then force your opponent to basically cancelled, wasted their shot? Or, is something happening right now that you need to spend your last command point on and just suck up the fire later on? So, it's some really interesting tactical choices you need to make throughout the game, as well as, as we've already talked about, the customization and the creativity that a game of this type enables you to have.
So when I activate my guy, do I have a couple of different actions? Do I have action points? So if I was activating my guy, what options do I have?
Everyone has 3 actions per turn, and you can do one of a number of actions, and you can do them in any order. So you can move, you can shoot, you can aim, you can fight in melee. You can stand, and you can make a recover action. There may be something that I've missed out, but I will just... psychic power is one of the other ones that you can do. So there are psychic powers in this. So you can cast a psychic power, and you can disengage from an enemy. So there's a few options that you can do. Some things are only cost 1 action. So a shoot action is just 1. If you a move action, which is the length of a stick, that's a single action. To cast a magical power, psychic power, typically that's 2 action points. Likewise, if you were to disengage from an enemy that you're engaged in melee combat, that's going to cost you 2 action points. The final one that I've just remembered is use action. So say your mission is to get to a console and activate it. Activating that console would cost you 2 actions because you'd be using a use action. It also is used on things like grenades and medkits and a few other bits and pieces in the game. So you can move, aim, shoot. You can shoot, move, shoot. You can charge, which is 2 movements and then a melee action, which will give you a dice bonus in the game. So there's, again, a lot of flexibility in terms of what you're doing each turn with each model, because you have 3 actions and you can do whatever type of action you want in whichever order you want. So, yeah. That's
cool, man. That's awesome. And what's the general playing area? And also, how is terrain and missions decided? How prescriptive is it?
So typically you play on either a 2x2 or a 3x3. I have played it on a 6x4 where we played 6-player. If I do another 6-player game, I will reduce that down. I think there was a little bit too much dead space between warbands. I want people to interact more, so I'd probably make it a max 4x3, but probably a 4x4. Probably a 4x3, 4x4 would be the max size that you should use from a personal experience. And in terms of missions, so there are 3 base missions that come in the game. You've got an objectively normal mission, which is where you stick down some objectives. You want to be on those objectives at the end of the game. You've got the kill 'em all, which is where you're trying to take out as many of your opponents as possible. And you've got a loot box game where you're going to try and grab the loot boxes and get them off the board. So there's 3 basic mission types that come with it, but there's so much more. We often within the Discord for Space Weirdos, and anyone who's interested in the game, come and check us out in the Discord community because we're all very friendly and welcoming. There is a book called Sci-Fi Skirmish Scenarios, by John Lambshead. I don't know if you ever come across this book, but anyone who's into sci-fi skirmish games, you should buy it. It is amazing. It's got, I don't even know off the top of my head, let's say a couple of dozen scenarios at least within it. And they are perfect for sci-fi skirmishing. A lot of them you can use in any kind of skirmish war game you want. Some of them you could even expand into larger format games as well. It's a really wonderful book. John has a lovely writing style. He really clearly explains things, has some great maps in there. He talks about how you can string these different games and scenarios together into a wider mission, giving different mission opportunities depending on what the result of the last game was and things like that. So that is a really wonderful resource that a lot of the community use. Nice. But there is one other resource that is currently being worked on, which will have more scenarios in too, and that's our community expansion, which I'm editing as we speak. We're doing layout. And we've got another 6 or 7 scenarios in that, which are scenarios that people in the community have come up with. The expansion's got a whole bunch of other stuff in there as well. But yeah, that's so yeah. There's whatever storyline scenario you can think of that you want to play, you can use this for it.
Nice, that's really cool. And you kind of alluded to it there about how these missions or stories that you create in kind of link towards each other. So is there within the book a structure to grow your warband, to maybe potentially replace people or upgrade?
No, sadly not. So people in the community have come up with various ideas. I will be modest enough to say that my campaign system seems to have taken kind of the norm at the moment, although I think that is going to change in the near future. So yes, there are ways of doing it. You want to be a little bit careful because, as with any campaign system, you can get spirals. Things can spiral, power spirals go on. So as that's not really what the game is about, we tend to advise that any changes in your model, you keep track of those points changes, and everyone agrees with each other how many points you're going to play at. And so if, for example, you lose a model and they're dead out of it based on a roll from a table that you've created, you can recruit someone in straight away. So there's, from that side of things, we felt as a community that it was better to enable fun play at the table. But also you want to be able to, your guy gets taken out of action, you want to roll on the table and find out, has he got a lingering wound that's going to force him to miss the next battle, or is it going to affect a stat, or has he done something really heroic, which you can roll on another table and see if there's something, a boon that he can get out of that. So you can certainly hack it, and one of the wonderful things about Space Weirdos is it's incredibly hackable. In fact, in anticipation of chatting to you today, Dan, last night I put a message up on the Space Weirdos Discord. I said, I'm chatting to Paint All Your Minis today about why I love Space Weirdos, and I do. I hope that's kind of communicated fairly clearly today about what I think is so wonderful about the game and why I think people should pick it up. But I want to know what people in the wider community thought. Awesome. And I was expecting, half a dozen people to respond. I got 30 responses. That's brilliant. And yeah, the really, really engaged community. It is lovely. Customization, that whole idea of being able to change things around, do what you want, it was a really big part of it. The simplicity of the rules, the low bar of entry, and the easiness to teach the game is a huge attraction to a lot of players. So I definitely would say that was a big thing. So if you want something which is going to be easy to pick up, easy to teach other people, and not cost you a fortune, this is the game for you. And then, the mechanics, a lot of people love the mechanics. The dice mechanics are super elegant in the way that they transition. There's a guy who, I'll send you a link to it. There's a guy who wrote a blog post about the dice mechanics of Space Weirdos and how they mathematically interact with each other, the different dice types that you can roll, whether that's 2d6 or 2d4 versus 2d4 or 2d12 versus 2d8. And the odds of succeeding, because it's all opposed rolls. So, I will, if you attack me with your guy at 2d8 and I'm defending with 2d12, there's always a chance that you're going to beat me, because I could always roll double ones and you could roll, double sixes, and you're going to beat me. But, there's odds of that are happening, are, statistically relevant. So you always know you're in with a chance, but the person who's got the higher dice rolls generally got the advantage, unless you're me with 2d12, and then 2d12 are a waste of my time. I don't know why I bother with you. But yeah, I'll send you that link so you can pop it in the show notes or whatever, if that's something you do.
For sure, yeah.
But yeah, and then, as I say, the customization, the hackability, how easy it is to turn this game into whatever it is you want, is a big part of why the community love it. And then finally, which we've just sort of chatted on quite a bit, is how narrative friendly it is, how cinematic it is, how you can have the back and forth between particular miniatures or between particular forces. It's really fun.
It sounds really fun, mate. And you mentioned just a little bit before about how you hope that your enthusiasm is coming across, and it definitely is. And as I purposely didn't research anything to do with this game, because part of the show is being organically occurring, and I'm excited about this. There's a few things that jump out to me, and the same things that you're talking about. So I'm just going to echo them, like the how cheap it is to get involved. And obviously you need some miniatures, but people that listen to the show, there's probably no one that's listening to this show that doesn't have any miniatures, right? So we've all got them kicking around. So you can go and you can pick it up for like $5. That's awesome. So it's a really low bar of entry in terms of cost. You mentioned it's very, very easy to teach. That's awesome too. You can use miniatures that you've already got. That's fantastic. There's a level of interest with the dice mechanic. I think that's really interesting and appealing to me, and I'd be interested to kind of to think about that. And you're just using stuff that you probably already have, and it's kind of open to you. And I was fortunate to speak to a gentleman called Will Rahman Daughtry quite recently, who he does post-apocalyptic skirmish type games, and he talked about how sometimes games like his and games like this, they're kind of like an act of rebellion in some ways, where it's like a company, and it's fine, I'm not criticizing at all, but companies want it to be very strict and very formalized and a very strict framework. And there's something about that which is positive. It helps with tournament play and adding clarity and things. But there's a certain part of picking this up for $5 and just do whatever you want. If that doesn't work for you, just do that. And if that doesn't work, you do that. And if you want to play with a little goat guy, do that. There's like a certain act of of rebellion about that, which I like. And I wish we could fan the flames of that more, because I think that going back to what we were talking before about, sitting at your paint desk and kind of being creative in your own right, I think we should be a little bit more creative. And I think that's when people fly, and that's when people enjoy things the most. It's when they're creating their game, when they're creating the experience that they want to create, instead of a situation or an experience which is a little bit too prescribed.
100%. I mean, I know that I've made minis where I don't even think about how I'm going to set it out in the rule block. In the Space Weirdos rule, but it doesn't matter to me. When I'm building a warband, I just want to build the warband that I want, and I know that there will be something in here which will enable me to put it on the table, even if it's going. I need to reskin something. For example, there's a psychic power called Mind Stab, where if you're within one stick, which is a 5-inch stick of an opponent model, you can cast this spell, and it does like really bad damage. It has a big impact on the under attack table that you roll on, because basically the under attack table the lower you roll, the more likely you're going to be able to do something back to your opponent. The higher you roll, the more likely something bad's going to happen to you. And it gives a +3 to that roll, so it has a big impact. But if you, for example, wanted to have like a model with a really powerful but short-ranged weapon, you just give it that. Like, okay, yeah, this is a really, like it takes 2 turns to activate, but it's this massive blunderbuss on a great big ogre. If you're outside of its range, it's not going to do anything to you, but inside of your range, it's going to decimate you and take you to pieces. So it's really easy to reskin things. And again, that's something that we talk about in the community a lot, when people come in and go, oh, who's made new weapons and stuff? Well, actually, the community expansion I spoke about, we got loads of new stuff like that in there, but most of the time, the more experienced players are just reskinning stuff in the original book, because there's always a way you can make it applicable on the table.
That's awesome, mate. So unfortunately, we're kind of getting towards the end of our time, but I've got a couple more questions, if I may. You mentioned the Discord server there. Is there a specific link or invite that we need, or is it an open page that we can go and check out?
I believe you can. So finding the Space Weirdos Discord, I can't even remember how I found it. I suspect if you go on the Wargames Vault and download it, there will be a link somewhere on that page. Otherwise, you just need to search it. Casey is a wonderful games writer. He writes really clear, concise rules that are easy to understand and follow. The fact that he could write a game with, as much with the simplicity and complexity and elegance within 16 pages of A5, I think is a big testament to that. But he is not his social media and connecting with people. That's not the thing that he does. He creates cool games. So if you're expecting lots of social media interaction, it's unlikely. He did his first podcast not long ago. He spoke with our mutual friend Matthew at the Bedroom Battlefield.
Yeah,
so if you want to learn more about Casey and the game, I did warn you I might. But you'll find an interview with Casey on the Bedroom Battlefields. So if you want to learn more about him, that's probably a good place to go and find out more about him.
Awesome. And have you had the opportunity to speak to him? Have you interacted with him? Not so much.
Yeah. He's very active on the Discord. So I know he's away camping this weekend. So immediately all the burning down the Discord memes hit straight away. He's a really lovely chap. He's very supportive of other people having fun in their hobby. So as I alluded a couple of times in the past, we are doing a fan expansion. And I spoke to him and I said, look, we want to do this fan expansion and make it look as professional as possible as a community. But then we'd also like it to be available through to the people outside of the Discord community through the Wargames Vault. Would you be prepared to help facilitate that? And we had a bit of a chat, and he was like, yeah, we can do that. We can even charge $1 or $2 for it and put all the donations to charity. Awesome. Which is a wonderful idea. That's probably what we're going to do. I don't know whether it'll be $1, $2, but it'll only be $1 or $2, with all the proceeds getting donated to charity every month or every quarter that Casey wants to support. He's super supportive of other people. He and a really, really lovely chap to chat to, and he is active on the Discord too. So,
that's amazing. It's been really good to speak to you, Ed, not only about your personal hobby journey, but also how enthusiastic you are about this game. And it's brilliant. It's really what we need to do as a community, is draw attention to these games which exist. which is just, 'cause I find I like them more that it's not a big corporate faceless entity. The fact that you know these people, you can speak to them, you can interact with them to a certain extent, and you know that it's just a guy making a cool game. That's what endears it to me more, because you know that you're really making a positive connection, a positive interaction, and a positive change to this. It's just great that people can just interact in this fashion. It's something that's fantastic. It's something that unfortunately we're losing in a lot of different ways, even just with where we go and buy a coffee from, or where we go and buy our groceries from. It's moved away from a kind of personal interaction and a personal connection and relationship to something that, you know, these people that are selling us these things, or these people that are creating these things, don't really actually care about me and what I do. But you've got this game that you enjoy and that you love, and you're able to have some small part, or in your case, a big part in developing and continuing that game and making it bigger and more accessible, and also prolongs people's relationship with it. So thank you for that. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Thank you for working on it, and we appreciate the time you spent with us, mate.
It's been a pleasure. I just want to say very quickly, I 100% agree. It's creating those communities, you know, those communities that modern life is kind of like dispersed. We're all so busy all the time. But when we have those communities that we can share our passions with, it's I think it gives more meaning to what we do personally. So yeah, it's a wonderful thing to be able to
completely agree. Nice. Well, thanks a lot for your time. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and no doubt we'll speak again soon. So there you go, episode 200 and I've forgotten, all wrapped up there. 254, all wrapped up there. Cool, nice. Hanging out in the storeroom still. It's a little bit of danger. I think I told you before. No one at work, no one really knows. No one that knows me face to face, family wise or friends or anything. No one really knows that I do podcasting. So it's a little bit dangerous because I'm in the storeroom. I think someone else might come in and be like, "What are you doing in here?" I'm pretty sure the first thing they think about won't be, "Are you recording?" And are you recording at the end of a podcast? I don't know. I'm just sitting here on my computer. They might think, "Oops, no good." That's a very serious thought, actually. What's the first things that might jump into people's head if they come into a small storeroom and I'm sat here on my laptop, looking at my laptop in a quiet, private storeroom? Anyway, that might be just my brain going in a certain direction, but I'm pretty sure they won't think about I'm doing a post ramble to a podcast. Anyway, hobby stuff. Still painting my rose nights. Batch painting my rose nights. A lot of green, a lot of ivory, a lot of metal. They're kind of coming along slowly. Kind of finished all the green kind of tabards and cloth. Put the wash on that, and I've done the base color back over, so they're just getting highlights. So, you know, when you start getting to the highlight stage, you know, you're starting to get towards the end, which is good. I think I mentioned last week about how I got the Last War box set, and I also got some stuff, The Walking Dead All Out War, so that's kind of looking at me, which is really nice. I'm really excited to kind of get around to that. That's pretty much all I've been doing hobby stuff. The Hive League, there's a little tiny tabletop game called Hive, different bugs and how these scuttle around each other trying to block in the opponent's queen. We're about halfway through the Hive League on Discord, so if you're interested in Board Game Arena or Tabletopia or Tabletop Simulator, if you'd like to play more games, but you haven't got the time, or you can't get out, or you just want to play some other mediocre players from different places around the world, then come and join the Discord. Go halfway through the Hive League. I think I'm suitably neutral. I think I played 4 games, and I think I'm 2-2, so I've won 2, lost 2. So yeah, come and swing by. That's been really interesting. Thank you to Derek, Dan, Vamps, and Scal for being as 5 people in this league. So we don't need even numbers. You know, what happens with 5 players is that we have 2 players play each other twice, like each week. So we have like 4 players playing in any one given week, and then the 5th player gets a bye. So we don't need even numbers or certain amounts. We can play with 2. We obviously can't play with 1. But yeah, and it's a good opportunity to try new games. It's a good opportunity to meet new people. We play on various different media mediums and different forms, and it's just really great hanging out with people. It's really good just like having a bit of a chinwag, getting to know some different people, and the connection is Paint All the Minis. And so I like to think that Paint All the Minis people are just pretty chill, pretty laid back. So if you want to meet other fellow chilled and laid back people, then feel free to swing by the Discord. Monthly painting activities going this month. The monthly painting activity is to do with like NPCs or non-violent minis or something along those lines. Maybe a model that's not immediately apparently stabbing someone could be classed as that. We have a theme for our monthly painting competition, but it's not strict and rigid. We can interpret it however we see fit. So if you're interested in a little bit of motivation or a little bit of interest, it's not for, you don't win money or a rosette or a prize. You get your name in gold. That's what you get if you win. You get your name in gold for the month. And then you also get a big say in what the following month will be. So if people vote for you for your NPC character, you get to kind of mostly decide what the title of the following month will be, which is kind of cool. And also, if you've got ideas, I mentioned this quite a few times, but if you've got ideas for something you'd like to do, every Monday we do a quiz. So I post a quiz and I get constant pelters because it's very Brit centric, but that's just where I bought the quiz book. We do a quiz on a Monday. We do Collective Side Tuesday, which is where I bought a joke book ages ago, and I try and wring some sort of value out of that joke book, which is pretty difficult actually. So Collective Side Tuesday, I post some of the jokes from the joke book, but there's other days of the week are available. So if you've got something you'd like to do, no matter how trivial or lighthearted it might be, or serious or deep it is, we can do that. John Dawson, who was on the show a while ago, he's interested in doing a potential model swap where people agree to send a model to each other, and then you will get a model in the post that maybe you would not have anticipated before, maybe you wouldn't have done before, you wouldn't have purchased yourself, and you can paint that up, and then you can share the kind of finished articles amongst everybody. So yeah, that's it. I think that's enough of the post ramble. I think I'm pushing my luck a little bit here. I need to get out of here before I get accused of sidling off into a storeroom for nefarious reasons. But so that's enough of the post ramble. Hope that you guys are good. Hope you guys are keeping on an even keel. Reach out to people, reach out to your group, reach out to us. Make sure you connect with people. Life's all about forming and maintaining positive relationships. That's what keeps us all. That's why we exist. We exist to speak to each other, to talk to each other, to interact with each other. So don't be alone. Don't be sitting at your paint table on your Todd thinking that no one cares. We do. I do. Let's connect. But anyway, that's enough of the post ramble. Until next time, you're together. Keep on sneaking off to the storeroom.